Hello, welcome back to another video. This is a race report for the Accursed Race, which is a race I'm fresh, well maybe not so fresh back from. Arrived home yesterday after travelling overland from Albania. And yeah, the Accursed Race is just about 1,000 miles, as you can see on Rubber GPS here, around the Balkans. So starting and finishing in Skoder, which is, as you can see, in Albania here, before heading north into Montenegro, looping around the northern tip in through Bosnia, back into Montenegro, a short ride through Kosovo, and then a nice big southern loop through Albania. So yeah, first edition of the race. It's run by Lost Dot. You can see on the social media here on Instagram. Started outside the Traveller Hostel in downtown Skoder, and as you can see, we had a nice. Basically, this guy, apparently he is like the Albanian. He went to the Olympics for Albania in weightlifting, and he basically, his job now is to wave the Albanian flag and dress in traditional dress. And he set us off from Skoder. So there's only a small field. I think there was about 40 riders starting on this first edition. I think there was a lot of unknowns, especially with the no-fly rules that you had to travel overland to the event. So I drove down to Zurich to get there, and then caught the train to Ancona, and then caught the ferry to Durrës, and then cycled to the start. There was also a bus put on by the organisers to get there. So yeah, this was us off on the start. So let's have a little look at the tracker. So it was on Follow My Challenge, and as you can see, I've done a little replay. Not really too much to see on the first day because there's so many dots together, it's hard to make it out. But there's three riders kind of started drawing away, me being one of them. The others being Alex Kopp and Alexandra and Adrian Lichty. So the first part through Albania, if we go on to Rubber GPS, you can see is characterised by three big climbs, and yeah, it made for a pretty tough start to the ride. There's not much information on this. If you've seen my preview videos, you would have found out that it's very difficult to find out much about what's actually there. But luckily for you, I had a GoPro on, so I can show you exactly what I found. So the first climb starts on tarmac and then goes sort of off-road, and as you can see, this is kind of near the top, following this balcony road, and it's pretty rugged and wild. It's really quite awesome actually, and the descent was proper tough. A real tough double track. It was double track, but it was rocky, and you needed some mountain bike skills to be able to ride that, especially with any speed. And after this first climb, it was a case of Alex Kopp and Adrian Lichty. They got a gap, and I was a bit further back. I saw them riding away up the first climb, but I decided to let them go, and basically never saw them again. But Alex got a bit of a lead. He was on a full sus, which probably was the bike of choice for this. And then you can see this middle climb is on the road, and now this was spectacular, up this big rocky canyon, and it climbs fairly high. So you can see this is near the top, so a series of tunnels, and you can see we've got some altitude here, not massively high. I think about 1,600 meters, but you're starting from just above sea level, so they are really long climbs, which was a pleasant surprise. And at this point, the weather wasn't great on the first day. But once I descended over this pass, actually it kind of dropped out of the clouds, which was quite nice. But you can see how spectacular the surroundings are, even in the clouds. Like real moody and atmospheric. And then the final pass was a real tough off-road one. And the descent was quite tricky too. And there was some friendly dogs barking and chasing me. So yeah, I got down. I was probably hour and a half, 2 hours behind Alex at this point. And yeah, it's kind of single tracky at the top and then loose double track. And this is a kind of typical surface in the Balkans. It's not very well driven. So the gravel, if you want to call it gravel, is quite bouldery. So you really want to be on a mountain bike. And I think people who were on gravel bikes at this early stage of the race started to wonder what they were doing, or realising that they were going to be in for a real rough ride. Because it was bad enough at times on a mountain bike. So yeah, that was the first sector here. And most people, if we look at the tracker, stopped in Podgorica. Now Podgorica, I think is a capital of Montenegro, certainly one of the biggest cities in Montenegro. And if we look, we can see that everyone kind of like huddled up, stopped in Podgorica. As I said, the weather was pretty bad, so lots of people just decided to stop early, get a hotel. I actually slept on a sofa in an abandoned house, which was very comfortable. Not quite sure where Alex and Adrian stopped, but I found that there was a lot of shelters and stuff. I took a hooped bivvy with me. I'll do a bike check and equipment check further down the line. But I took a hooped bivvy, and I just found that I didn't actually use it. I didn't use it all race. I only used it to sleep on. So yeah, you can probably travel quite light and rely on finding something out there. And you can see these are some of the photos from the race organisers from the first day. So yeah, Veronica Sales, that's me, and Adrian. And you'll notice as well that there's not many close-up photos, and part of the ethos of this race is to keep it wild. So the race photographers are actually using quite long lenses, often hidden away. I did take quite a lot of pride in managed to spot them most of the time. I saw Matt just quite out the corner of my eye, just hid under the bridge here as I went past, and then I saw the other guys at the cafe the other side of the road. So yeah, I was watching you. Don't worry. But yeah, they're trying to keep out of the way so that the riders have a real kind of like solo experience, and by this point I was solo, and I didn't really see anyone else for the rest of the race. So yeah, that was the first day. Heading into the second day, as you can see, Alex was almost into Bosnia. There's a bit of a climb up, and this bit was pretty wet in the morning. I'll put it on the right GPS, it's a bit clearer. So yeah, just a lot of up and downs. It was a bit of a grind. I got up most of this climb in the dark and I slept around here, but this was just a bit of a drag. Early morning, sort of before 8 a.m, even earlier if the guys ahead. It just made it hard work. And then you can see there's quite a lot of flat, kind of flat, a big long section here from Trebinji. Again, apologies for my pronunciations, not my forte. So yeah, this section here is actually an old train track, and it was relatively flat. Although don't be deceived by the profile. There's plenty of undulations in there, and you can kind of see the race kind of forming a pattern now. Obviously the front three of us kind of pulling away. Adrian and Alex fairly close together. I was about 30-40k back at this time. And then in the backpack, you've got sort of David, Rory, Roll. All these people just sort of like, maybe pushing too hard early on, but forming a pack. And our lead women, Veronica Zales and Bernarda Juric. You can see the black dots here are actually riders that ended up scratching. Unfortunately for Bernarda, she got bitten by a dog. So that meant that Veronica was soon able to sort of get a bit of a lead, but she was mixing it right up with the guys anyways. We'll see further on. So let's have a little look at some of that train track, see what it looked like. I mean, this video I've got is probably one of the rougher sections. You can see it's obviously like cut into the hillside there. This is the kind of terrain. As I said, this is about as rough as it got. Some of it was just tarmac, some of it was more graded gravel. But yeah, most of the afternoon was spent just riding along these tracks, and yeah, kind of easy miles actually early on. It was kind of a welcome after the harder start and the wetter start, and yeah, just kind of steady miles. So back to the dots. There's actually a lot of tarmac in Bosnia. You can see on Rub GPS here. If I get rid of that section, that obviously, if you've seen my videos before, you'll know that the solid red is tarmac and the sort of checkered is off-road. So there's only really one substantial off-road section apart from the rail tracks in Bosnia. I ended up doing the sort of first part of the climb. It's a big steep old climb to get up there, kind of first gear, just mashing on the pedals, and a good resupply down the bottom here. And then you're kind of in the wilds in this river valley. I actually slept down here. I found a shed to sleep in. It was quite cold and wet because of the river. You can see that just running down there before the big long pass here. And you can see on the map here, Alex was first into there. you'll probably see I stopped fairly soon. And everyone just found somewhere to settle in. And Adrian obviously moving, sleeping a bit less. Alex just riding a lot faster. And you see by this point, Veronica's come into 5th place. She really came through the pack there. Doing an awesome ride. So let's have a little look at that big pass. So again, back to our GPS, you can see one of the highest points of the race here. Pretty much the highest point, not far off the others. And it was this beautiful pass. I don't even know the name of it. I should probably find that. Is it Uluvaca? That might be the range anyway. But you're going up there, and it's absolutely mind blowing. Really reminds me of Kyrgyzstan. So this is the descent. The climb up was very similar, but if you've done the Silk Road mountain race, you would be you could easily mistake this for Kyrgyzstan. Obviously the altitude is different, but you start from quite low, as with most of the climbs here, and you really do get up high. So this is probably 17 or 1800 meters, but you're starting from 200 or 300 meters. So you really can climb for a couple of hours. And this was a real nice descent. This must have been about 7 o'clock in the morning. I started in the dark, and by the time I got up there, the sun was just starting to come up, just starting to warm the bones up a little bit, after quite a cold night down in the river valley. And this is what a day. What a way to start your day. 7 a.m. on top of a almost 2,000 meter mountain, and then you've got a descent, and you can see just goes on for miles and miles, a ribbon of gravel down to the bottom. It was pretty cool. And as at this point I started to realize how special this route was going to be. It really was fantastic. And then so that's kind of the main part of the main off-road section in Bosnia. And then you can see fair bit of road again, and crossing the border back into Montenegro before some off-road sections later in the day. Again, race-wise, Alex and Adrian up front. I was about probably 40 to 50k behind, and we all kind of settled into our kind of position by this point. Rory was doing a good ride. He was solid in 4th. Veronica was absolutely flying, really pushing hard, and smashing all the guys, which is great to see. And also she's on a gravel bike, or a Mason ISO, so 2-inch tyres, fully rigid and drop bars. And a mountain bike is the perfect bike for the job, and she definitely made her life more difficult, but she was really up there pushing hard, and doing a fantastic job. And so CP1, as you can see, is down here. Alex was first through, Adrian was second through. Let's have a little look on the Instagram page and find some of those images. So Hotel Baran in Baran. There's Adrian turning up, quick turnaround. There's me, and as you can see, it's settled in the hills, so you know kind of what that means once you leave. I didn't get in there in the morning. There's a really big pass beforehand actually, and it was pretty horrendous weather up there. The wind was really howling. I'll just show you a video of that. So the where are we? Here we go. This one. So you can see that this is probably one of the highest points of the race. Again, I managed to do the high points at really early in the morning, so this was probably 6:30 in the morning, and you can see the grass to the side. The wind was really howling across there. It was pretty cold, and there was still a bit of snow in places, but again, absolutely spectacular. Beautiful riding. Again, another couple of hours worth of climbing, and it really did remind me of Tour Divide. It was really cool. Obviously then we dropped down to the checkpoint, and also just worth noting, this is a new thing that the Accursed Race are trying. They're using these ring doorbells, or whatever the brand is. So basically, to validate yourself, you ring the doorbell and someone answers the phone on the other side, and it timestamps you. Personally, I didn't like it that much. I felt it was a bit impersonal, and I couldn't really connect with the person on the other side because there was no screen. They can see you, but you can't see them. It's given me a kind of a new kind of appreciation for delivery drivers who have to ring these smart doorbells. So that was how we kind of like checked in. So that was basically most of Montenegro done then, because after these big sections we were then pretty much on tarmac into Kosovo. So there's a long climb into Kosovo. You can see here the border, and just rolling through Kosovo, relatively flat compared to how it had been. And at this point in the race, the leaders, well, you can see Alex was still leading there, Adrian second. I'd managed to close the gap a little bit, but not too much, not enough to really make a massive indentation. So Alex was first through Kosovo back into Albania, followed by Adrian and myself. Rory was then into CP1, and Veronica was fifth into CP1 with David Sanchez in pursuit. And then Sim and Julian, you can see our first pair here. They were what a great pair. They were full of energy and laughter, and probably if they didn't laugh so much, they might have gone a bit faster. But yeah, they had a great time, and they were the first pair into CP1. So further down the road, back into Albania, and this is where it started to get really wild. So I'll just show you a quick video of Kosovo. Kosovo, it was actually really nice. It was the first time I'd been there. It was all tarmac and really nice roads, nice shops, like clean and tidy, but the drivers were a bit manic. It was very hard to predict. And this was just riding into back towards Albania. You can see the mountains in the distance there. That's Albania, the other side. So yeah, that was really cool. You can see it's kind of flat, and then you get these big lumps. So there's a bit of a climb, and then you're really into the thick of it in Albania later in the race. So as we head towards CP2, I'll just run forward a bit on the race tracker. So again, race situation is pretty solid. We're all tracking about the same. I closed a bit of time on the guys in front, but not enough to really make a difference. Adrian started getting closer to Alex as they approached CP2, but Alex, eventually got there first, and Rory still in fourth. But yeah, these sections here, they were pretty spectacular. So into the Lura Deja Mountain National Park, and yeah, they were tough. If this is a race that ramps up. So if you're looking for a tough challenge, it is definitely this is gonna provide it. So this is the first. Top of the first climb and descent, and you can see in the distance, you can see the tracks to the left here, and in that far distance on the mountain, that's where we ended up going. And quite often in Albania, you can see where the day's riding is, because the roads don't kind of go direct through the mountains, they twist around, and you can always see kind of almost the next pass. So yeah, headed all the way up there eventually. This was a steep hike bike out of this valley, and yeah, it was a tough day. The next climb after this there was a long descent, and then there was a really rocky on and off your bike, basically it felt like a riverbed, and it was really, really tough to keep any momentum on there. And then when you get over the top, there was a big plateau, and this is what it was like: slow, bumpy. If you're on a gravel bike, it was going to suck. If you're on a mountain bike with suspension, it sucked. And it was really remote. It's wild, really wild, and you felt like you were the only people out there. Really, really cool. And that's this section through here before you drop down to Pishkopi for the checkpoint, which is just here. I actually cracked going down there big time. I ran out of food and fell into the checkpoint. There's probably some good photos on Instagram, as well as lots of photos of Veronica eating. Seem to always catch her in a supermarket. There's Sim and Julian, the leading pair. I don't know how Julian's hair and beard looks so good all the time. Maybe he combed it. So there's David Sanchez. This must be, I can't remember which supermarket this is. I definitely recognise it from somewhere. But you can see what's happening at this stage. It's just kind of a supermarket sweep. Pile all your basket as high as you can. No standards, just like drying everything everywhere. Helmet on the trolleys. It's quite funny actually when you think about it. So yeah, that was sort of general resupply. CP2, I don't think there's actually any imagery of it, which is a shame. There must be some somewhere. But yeah, it's CP2, everyone was pretty much broken. The race was really kind of coming on now, and there was a massive storm as well. So I got caught out in a storm. You see, Alex got into Pishkopi first. At this point, Adrian was probably just about an hour behind him. I was somewhere up a mountain somewhere. This on the really slow section. And you can see they basically left at the same time. Alex took his time at the checkpoint. Adrian really like hammered through it. Didn't have to stop. And by this point, I was just having a bit of a meltdown, the lowest point of the race. Ran out of food, blew, got stuck in a storm, crashed in a pothole, turned up the checkpoint, was very grumpy, and then decided to sleep 6 hours, which in hindsight, maybe I could have really closed the gap if I'd taken the risk, but at that stage, I was just totally on my limit, and I just had to stop. And Adrian actually got into the lead, so you can see here there's a bit of a road and a gas station, a bit of resupply in a few towns. Alex actually stopped. Adrian carried on and up this really long climb, but he did have to stop longer than he wanted to because he got stuck in a thunderstorm. So you can see in the next morning of the race, Adrian is actually ahead of Alex. By this point, I've got myself out of bed, but I'm still a good chunk behind these guys. But basically, there's a big, wet, sloppy hiker bike up here, so it was really quite. Don't be fooled by the gap. It's a good 2-3 hour climb, and these guys were well ahead of me. Further back, you can see now up front we'd really pulled out. Rory was sitting solid in fourth, and then David, Veronica, Roll, they were all kind of in a bit of a group, and Sim and Julian just in their own little world, laughing at each other in the leading pairs. So yeah, that was heading towards CP2. Obviously, we're talking 24 hours between now, so it's kind of hard to talk about the front of the race and the rear of the race at the same time. So I'll kind of focus a bit more on the front. But you can see there's this is the section here, and there's a real nice long climb. This really reminded me of Tour Divide. This whole section, pretty spectacular. 60 odd miles, very little in the way of resupply, very little in the way of tarmac. And yeah, there's basically like it's a mining town down there somewhere. And let's see if I can find the video. Here we go. This is kind of what you're looking at. The climb is similar. You see it's fairly well driven. They drive trucks up here. And it's just really long. It just reminded me of Colorado on Tour Divide. And you can see in the far distance there, heading right down into that valley. And that's quite often how it works in this race. You can just see where you're going for like the next 6 hours at all times, and normally it's up, and normally you can see the next climb that's going to come. So that was really cool. And then further along, really took on some beautiful tracks. This was kind of a lot of balcony roads, not super fast rolling, not really that steep, but just draggy. Quite often can be rough. But the mountains are just untouched and beautiful up there. Really was quite spectacular. And it was a joy actually to ride these tracks. And I just huge kudos to the organisers of the Accursed Race for putting this route together, because it was absolutely spectacular. And I think it's a match to any of the big ultras out there, the big off-road ones. If you want to prepare for Tour Divide or the Silk Road Mountain Race, or maybe you want to do some of these races, but you haven't... you don't want to fly there, you want to travel over land, or you don't want to leave Europe, then I would definitely recommend it. So that is on these sections down here. So let's just run the replay again. So Adrian's ahead, and then Alex catches up again. I'm still floating around up here somewhere. I actually stopped some rucky with some locals, which is kind of cool. And heading down into the Latch, and that's kind of 100 miles to go basically. And by this point, Alex is way ahead, headed into the last night of the race. It's at this point I think Adrian decided that Alex has got it. He wasn't going to close it. He stopped for the night. I stopped for the night just before LAC because I was just nailed. And Alex basically managed to get all the way through with a few power naps. But there was a kick in the tail, a brutally steep hiker bike, which I will show you. And it was a bit of a one of those ones where you kind of wonder why it's there. It doesn't feel very necessary when you've been riding for 6-7 days. You can see this big climb up here, and the bottom section is basically just a massive hiker bike down a valley, back up the other side, and you can just see the dots slow down when you're looking at the race tracker. And yeah, it was quite difficult to deal with mentally, and I'll show you it. But once you got on it, it kind of made quite a lot of sense. So this was a hiker bike, so I'll just pause it here so you can see basically you're riding down into this valley. Well, I say riding. I rode this a little bit, and then you're hiking down into this valley, and up the other side you can kind of see the traces of the track the other side. So yeah, it was steep down, it was steep up, it was slow going. It was hot when I was there, but it was also stormy when other riders were there. The mountains are quite unpredictable, and storms did tend to come in the evening. So yeah, I think a lot of riders were cursing that section until you get the final descent, and then this made just a lot of sense. Downhill all the way. You can see in the distance there, just on the shore of the lake, is Skoder. I managed to get up there at golden hour, and yeah, it was just an awesome descent. I rode it as fast as I could, and you could pretty much freewheel all the way to the finish if you wanted to for the last hour. It really was it was a very pleasant finish to the race. Really cool. So yeah, I guess we should talk about the race. So Alex won, Adrian came in second, and I came in third. So we'll check out the official Instagram, and you can see, there we go, 6 days, 1 hour and 45 minutes. Adrian came in about 5 hours later, 6 days, 5 hours, 12 minutes. And I think I was about 6 days, 12 hours behind that. And yeah, the rest of the riders sort of filtered in gradually over the next few days. So Rory, he was in fourth the whole way through. And then if we just watch the tracker again, you can see that, Rory's in his own little world here. Veronica and David got in a nice little battle. Roll was up there as well. And basically Veronica and David were kind of going toe to toe. I know Veronica was really trying to get ahead of David, and probably the same again for David. They got stuck in a big storm just by the end here. My dot froze because my tracker stopped working. But Veronica and David ended up sheltering under the storm and left for the final hiker bike together. And David just about got ahead of Veronica just at the end there. So he came home fifth, and Veronica came home sixth. But Veronica was the fastest woman, fastest gravel bike as well. You can see her set up there, 8 days, 6 hours, 22 minutes. Really, really awesome ride. Given everyone else was on mountain bikes ahead of her, she did pretty fantastic. So that's David at the finish as well. That was the Accursed Race. Sorry, a bit of a ramble of a video, but I hope you liked it. I would definitely recommend it. I've got loads more stuff coming on it, like gear checks, bike checks. I've got a video going to be my race video to be edited by Ryan LeGarrick. And I'm also going to do a bit of a video on the overland travel to get there and getting back. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this one, and catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.